Hi, my name is Jacob Adams. I'm a fitness and leadership coach. I help people just like you get to the next level. I'm here with Ben Ray. Ben, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
You bet. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for having me on your show. So my name is Ben Ray. I am also interested in leadership initiatives. I've been in branding and marketing for over 20 years now. And most recently, I've been relatively deep in terms of personal development and then how that applies to businesses regarding growing your business and becoming a better person and becoming more accountable. So thank you.
Of course, of course. We're gonna get into. You said a lot of cool stuff right there. Like my brain just started firing off. So we're gonna get into some of the stuff you said. Today's topic is gonna be about how to use pain to propel to the next level. See, everyone has pain. That's sort of like the big idea here that everybody has pain. Not everyone uses it or identifies it as fuel to get to the next level. And so we'll be discussing managing pain and using that. Uh, Briefly, Ben, why did you start seeing? You said you're into marketing and branding. How would you simplify that for? Because there's, said a few words. How would you simplify that for somebody watching? What's your expertise? Like mine's fitness and leadership. Like, what's your
Okay.
expertise? Hmm.
It's I would say it's personal branding. So how you present yourself and also appear online is of utmost importance. So external perception based on how you are presenting yourself. That's my expertise.
Cool. And I think that for example, I'm going to tell you kind of what I get from you right off the bat. You have a very clean cut image. You seem to have like a wisdom to you, sort of a depth wisdom to your image there. And I wanted to give you that because I mean that's your work, and I'm saying like that's how you come across to me, sort of a wise. You have a clean cut, like there's like a almost like a New York type energy. Are you from the East Coast? Is that where you're from?
I'm actually from Colorado,
Oh,
and
cool.
I think that but I have had an office in New York. I've traveled internationally. I've worked with CEOs all over the globe, and it's the gray hairs are really what gives me the wisdom look. So, but I thank you for that. Yeah, I mean I've dealt with a lot of people over the years and a lot of different personalities, and you really have to understand where people are coming from to help them out. So I appreciate that.
Of course, of course. Why did you get into personal growth, or how long have you been on this? I've been into personal growth for about, just to get back the mic back to you, maybe like over 15 years. I'm gonna say over 15
Okay.
years. It's been a direct study and application, and it's a process. It's not something that you can like. I would choose personal growth. There's no end. So when did you get into personal growth and how it correlates to your business? You were saying.
So about a year ago, I was going through a lot of transitionary elements regarding my own life. And through my own discovery, I realized that I had been transformed quite measurably in terms of the way that I approached my business, the way that I showed up for my family, for my business partners, for my children, the way that I worked out. And I realized that I had much more potential within myself. So I started to really then understand about really what personal accountability is specifically to myself. And then I started looking at the different ways in which I'd shown up over the years, specifically regarding business. And I realized that there were numerous uh, uh, obstacles which I perceived at the time were external, and I realized it was just me. Everything inside me was my fault, whether good or bad. So once I started understanding that, then I started applying those to standard kind of business practices and breaking everything down to just two simple principles, and that is that everyone has to take personal responsibility and be accountable to the team. And those I started talking to all of the companies that I was advising with and individuals. And it really comes down to that when people understand that whether you're a CEO or whether you're an intern or whomever you are, once you understand that you're part of a team and that you're not able to do anything alone, and if you do things alone you're kind of in a vacuum, but when you're accountable truly to a team and everyone is on the same page and you're moving toward the same goal, real success can happen. And if you just exist in that kind of vacuum of ego driven lifestyle, chances are you're not going to make it. So that's really what I talk to everyone about, is to blend in the personal accountability, personal responsibility and accountability into the team, whether that's startup, and that's one of my expertise is startup. If you're a CEO and you're going through some crisis management issues, it all comes down to personal accountability.
Personal accountability. Extreme Ownership is a book written by Jocko Willink, and that really, to me, aligned with a lot of what you said. In other words, whenever there is sort of a mess up, first look at, can you take the blame? And that's really a good place to start. Before, can you take the blame? Somebody wanted to reschedule a session today. I was like, you know what? I told him 11. Little things, man. Little things. This interview could have not gone through. I know that your father's in the hospital, and we're going to bring up our subject as far as processing, challenging emotions. So to tie into what you were saying, everyone can agree, most people that have the willingness, the humility, the sincerity are going to say, yeah, sure, of course. Teamwork, accountability to the team, self accountability are all great attitudes that are going to make things cohesive and allow us to move forward. Very few people are going to disagree. If you disagree with that, you probably don't have any concept of what teamwork is. You probably don't.
Well, I imagine that most people will shake their heads and nod yes, but I would challenge you to say most people don't understand that. I mean, they really, really don't. Like I've been in boardrooms with stakeholders, high level guys, and everybody's shaking their heads yes. And then you kind of walk out of the room and, you see guys whispering, there's no way I'm going to do that, like that. So what they're really doing is they're not taking accountability. Then 2 months later, when it comes down to it, they're going to say, I knew this wouldn't work. And right there, that right there, you can give lip service to it, but unless you truly live with the personal responsibility and accountability to the team, it's just lip service. And that I've seen happen countless times over the past 20 years. So even though it's just in the past year or so that I've really applied this to the business, I've seen this over the past 20 plus years in business myself.
Amen. Amen. So you're preaching to the choir, man. So let me ask you this. So ego. We'll bring up one of the components. We'll call it ego component. What's ego? It's not a component. It's not a gear. Well, if we look at the human body, the human existence, in a spiritual text, and also in the military, whatever you want to call it, military, spiritual text, everyday conversations, this concept of ego comes up. Ego. And you've identified it as one of the reasons why people aren't working well on a team. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah,
What
I
drives the
believe,
ego? What's driving the ego?
I think it's perhaps it's overindulgence on um, maybe your inadequacy to be confident with your team, or perhaps it's that you're not a good enough leader to explain what you would like, and it's really just that you have not, people whom I've worked with have not really stepped outside themselves and really done a self-assessment of actually who they are. They're saying what they think they should say as a CEO or what they should say as a leader, but but and everyone's shaking their head because no one's going to challenge that, and then it just unravels from there where nothing gets done. The CEO is very upset because he didn't explain himself clearly. The workers or other partners say, I didn't really understand what he was talking about either, and no one talks about that. So it's just that ability to not have humility and not say what you're actually feeling that drives that ego. And that ego is truly what I've seen in a lot of companies has been the major failure. Although when you think about it, the people who cause it, they're never going to admit it because that's what got them there in the first place.
Okay, so ego. Let's say this ego clarity. Where people weren't clear. People didn't challenge it because there's an authority. They could lose their job, et cetera, et cetera. That's understandable. I'm saying the team players, people that aren't in a position of power,
Mm-hmm.
of hierarchy, right? I'm saying these individuals because this ego here, what is driving? Why do people placate the ego? Is a good question. I kind of know the answer, and it's connected to our topic. So I'm saying, and we didn't prepare all that we've said, right? None of that was prepared.
Right.
None of this has been scripted at all.
Right.
But here we are. Why do people placate the ego or give in to the ego's whims, or what's the whole ego thing? What the hell, man? Why is ego such a problem? It's a three-letter word.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with fear, and it has a lot to do with pain. And a little bit about our topic, I think people are afraid of pain, and that pain can manifest itself in many different ways. Maybe it's feeling inadequate, maybe it's real hurt, maybe it's stress, and people avoid pain because they're afraid of it. And that's what I've seen, and that possibly could be one answer to your question. But if not, lead me a little bit more. But that's what I've seen has happened quite a many times, is just fear of pain,
Well,
avoidance.
I think you hit the nail on the head. In other words, sedation or to numb sedation, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah.
to numb pain, right? What like if you look at what that is, like what do people typically do when
Mm.
they numb their pain? The typical go-to is
I've
what?
Yeah, sedation, whether that's avoidance, whether that's drugs, alcohol, inappropriate things on the internet, whatever that is, they numb themselves so that they don't have to deal with the pain because they're afraid of pain, whatever it is, but they sedate themselves so they don't have to deal with it. Like, I'll deal with this tomorrow, or I'll never deal with it because I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm going to have two whiskeys. That I have definitely seen. So in those boardrooms, what do most people do right after that? They go to the bar. I've
Okay.
seen that. It
Okay.
happens.
Cool. Cool. So what's your experience? And when I say, I know you're saying there, and I just want to be
Yep.
clear here that that's also me, and I'm sure that's also Ben here. This isn't. I want to be clear, like this isn't a judgment on any way, because this is really about almost like a connection to saying the pain is what
Yeah.
unites us. It is what
Yeah.
unites
Yeah.
us.
It
And
is. It's a commonality, and the fact that no one talks about it, that's also a commonality. So when my attitude is a bit flippant about it, it's because it's rampant everywhere. I mean, people talk about going to have a drink, but what actually that is sedation. And the commonality, I think, mostly among men, is that sedation that no one wants to talk about, and that pain is something that is rampant in our society, specifically among men. The older you get, the fewer friends you have, the less people you feel you can talk to about, and you can't be genuine because you think you'll be um, judged. And I certainly have felt this way over the years. And you're right, I'm not judging anybody, I'm just talking about things I've seen. But in my own personal experience, in my transformation, I've become much more self-aware, which was the first step. Secondly, then, to say I've got to do something about it, and I need to stop numbing myself with whatever it is to avoid dealing with the pain. And once I realized that the only way to uh, deal with the pain was to accept it, understand it, and then actually run toward it, understanding that the only way to solve your pain, my pain, is to attack that pain and actually invite it in so that I can deal with it, not run away from it or sedate.
does meditation, in your honest experience, meaning I don't know, I'm pretty into meditation, and honestly, I don't know if you are because we haven't spoken about it very much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think so? Whatever you're about to say, it's free reign here. What's your take on meditation and facing the pain? Meditation, and does that help at all in your experience or thought?
So I have not been that much into meditation over the years. What I have been into is exercise, which can also be a form of sedation. In terms of meditation, for me, it's been difficult over the years to control the voices in my head. So recently, what I've done is I've just tried to create the space to even be open. And so what I do in my meditations is I try to meditate with intent. Instead of seeking answers, I'm open with intent to listening. And once I'm able to do that, then I am able to start to then feel the voice or the energy or the power or the spiritual connection that I've never had before. So for me, it's about opening that space. And certainly once I've done that and I continue to do that, which is increasing every day, I am able then to focus on that and lessen, I would say, the pain. And in fact, it's not a conscious thing. It just starts to erode. It starts to disappear. So I look at it kind of like if there are some sort of shackles you, it isn't like they magically just break off. It's just they start to lessen the hold that they have on you, much like fear, much like pain. The more self work you do actively with intent, the more you're able to have the negative things that come at you, which we all have, start to slowly disappear. And I believe it's a lifelong journey. It's not something that just flips gone and then you're like, okay, I'm cool now. It's everyday introspection and the decision to do something about that creates long-term results
I love
for
it.
me.
I love your answer, May, because I'm meditating for quite some time, relatively speaking, relative to what you were saying. I'm not a monk or, none of that. What I say is the only thing I'd offer you is you talked about you don't the voices in the head and stuff like that. You eventually do have them subside a little bit, but just like imagine a vast desert or a vast desert. Even though the most of the water is down and like most of the desert is on the floor, there is a little dust that comes up. So I'd say that
Okay.
that would be the biggest the biggest thing where the little dust that comes up off the ground is sort of like the thoughts that are always going to come up a little bit, but for the most part you're anchored. I hope that visual might help later on in time.
Sorry, can you say that again? I just lost some power. I just plugged back in. Just that last sentence you just asked me.
No worries. Visualize, like, in other words, as you're meditating, a vast desert, right?
Okay.
I know desert isn't a positive image for some, but a vast desert, and you imagine like the dust on the top surface kind of falls, but most of the sand is down, right? But there's just like a little
Okay.
bit of sand. Imagine that like a metaphor, if you will, of the there's going to be some minor thoughts that do come up off the ground, but the
Mm.
objective was to anchor most of yourself, and in that experience, the total experience is a meditative practice.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
metaphor. It's a metaphor. I'm not.
yeah, no, I understand that. And I understand that I need to use actually metaphors. And for me, since I'm a visual thinker, I need to put myself in a place where I am visualizing things, calm things, or floating in space, or expansion three-dimensionally, four-dimensionally. And if I'm able to focus on that, the other stuff does disappear. And even if they come up, it is like they're very distant. For me, they're distant stars. So that way they're not really here. I know they're out there somewhere, but they're not going to affect my ability then to focus on actually what matters, because most of the stuff that spins around in my head and other people I've talked to is stuff that just doesn't matter. In fact, I read something a couple of weeks ago that 80% of what you think about that doesn't matter, you repeat the next day. So if you think about just getting rid of all that, the negativity or those thoughts that don't matter, you can be much more focused on actually what does matter, and you can be much more productive in your being by just eliminating the constant repetition of just things that don't matter.
No, of course, of course. And Ben, I know that you're currently going through a challenging time. Do you want to share with the viewers what you're going through, or is it you want to remain private? I know you're going
Yeah, it's
through.
fine. No, it's fine. My dad has Parkinson's. He's had it for a good 12 years, and every year it's gotten progressively worse. Something he's had deep brain surgery, and so he got rid of the tremors about 5 years ago. He has the batteries that in the past year he's rapidly kind of gone downhill. It's a disease that affects you even if you have medication, even if you have the stimulation every day. Different parts of your body start to shut down, whether it's your legs, whether it's your vocal cords, whether it's your thinking. a lot of parts of your body start to shut down. And just recently, he had to have another surgery. Actually, yesterday, it was a feeding tube because he just has forgotten how to swallow, which is really a crazy thing for me because that's really one of the things that you immediately you do right when you're born. You and you swallow food, and he has forgotten how to swallow. So he's lost 70 pounds in the past 6 months or something. So he had to have the feeding tube put in him, and it's for him there's not too much physical pain in that, but there's certainly emotional pain for him in terms of not being the man that he was before. And so that pain is the pain that he's dealing with, and he's really dealing with the pain of those identity and his been almost the first time ever in his life that I've seen him afraid or on this. And I don't know if he's he's not in palliative care, so I don't think that it's imminent that he's going to pass, but his quality of life certainly is affected now, and he could live a couple more years. I mean, he's still healthy, but he's rapidly, his body's shutting down. So it's really understanding that emotional pain, and we're trying to keep him comfortable, whatever, warm, or just he's getting water, or feeding tube, whatever that is. But that ability to help lessen his pain, I think I'm learning from him in terms of living with grace, to be able to deal with the pain and not push it away and not sedate thinking it's going to go away, because it's not. And the only way I can help him is to be strong for him and deal with my issues and not sedate.
And so we're running out of time here for what we set for yourself. So let me ask you this: one of our final questions. Let's just say one of the key ideas was to talk about using pain to propel us to our next
Okay.
level of growth. Okay, and so
Yep.
clearly your
Yep.
family and yourself, they're processing some heavy emotions. Is that fair to say?
It is, and we've seen it come over over the past year. So in terms of a little bit of progression, we have learned, and the way that I've used this pain, whether it's seeing my dad or dealing with my emotions or my mom, is to really then take me up to another level in terms of being strong to support the family, and really understand that my dad isn't the leader anymore, and the leader needs to be me. And I have been for quite some time, at least in terms of where I am, sandwich generation. I have 6 kids. And now, though, the generation, that worked very hard through the depression, that has really been strong, they are the ones who now have to be taken care of like children. So it's really given me the strength and propelled me up to the next level to be a leader by using the emotional pain to really push me forward.
Right. In other
Jacob, you
words,
still there?
yeah. No. Can you hear me?
I can. Your image is gone, so I don't know if
Well,
you're
we'll start.
still on camera, actually.
We'll start wrapping up.
So,
Okay. Well,
but
so can
but
you
I'm
hear?
still here.
Can
I can
okay.
hear you.
Okay. Cool. So what we'll say is this. Well, I want to thank you for sharing that. I know that we're maybe losing signal and stuff like
I
that.
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So number one, Ben, thank you for being here and talking about how, for example, we came to the conclusion here for yourself for now for this talk is that you're using the pain in order to step up to your next level because you know what's needed of you. And you do see the pattern that, of course, there may be temptations to sedate or numb, but you are using it, stepping up as, you could say, manning up to the situation. And that's a healthier pattern. That's a healthier calling. Um, I really honor you for that and sharing that story. I really do. We'll talk again sometime soon. Is there anything you want to tell the viewers watching? Any idea to leave them with? Any impact that you want to make to the viewer?
Well, I want to say thank you, and I'll show anytime to talk about any stuff. It's valuable, I think, to get this out to your viewers in terms of personal experience, because we can all relate to someone. But I would say, as a final closing, that the I think that to become a leader, sedation doesn't work. Running away from your pain just doesn't work. It's the one thing that doesn't work is running away from your issues. So I would say to your viewers to just man up, face what you have to do. It's not going away. Not so the sooner that you choose to address your problems, you'll actually have less pain. So thank you, and I appreciate your
That's
time.
that that was worth it. Oh, that was the conclusion was worth it in itself. I'm glad we got there. Ben, you have a great day. Drive safe and
All
always,
right.
and God bless you and your family. We'll talk soon.